Okay, we're recording. You can go ahead and say anything you want to say.
I'm Clay Bryant, and you're in pursuit with Cold Case Clay. And the young lady with me is Miss Tony Striblin. She's the producer of this and also the sponsor at Rogers Barbecue in Hogansville, Georgia. Uh, we're going to look at some old cases that I've been lucky enough to have a little luck with, and we solved, and even some that, and at times that are still active with in other places and so forth. Uh, but I hope you enjoy being on pursuit with Cold Case Clay.
So, tell them a little bit about what you've been doing this week. Can you reveal a little bit about what's been going on this week? Because it's sad and exciting at the same time.
Well, I won't be able to discuss cases that as they're ongoing if there's a chance that it's going to be in litigation because I can't take a chance that we prejudice a case. But this is a very serious case and one that should have found some resolution 14 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I feel. But when it comes about, we'll see how it's going to go
Mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want you to tell a little bit about a case that you'll talk more about in the future, and it's the one where the body was left here off of near the Callaway High School, because that's really close to home here in Hogansville.
Yeah, well, in 2007, the young lady was, there were six plastic trash bags found on the side of the Stitcher Road at the Whitfield Road in rural Troup County, out close to Callaway High School. And as daylight came and folks were able to look, they thought that it was someone had thrown a deer carcasses out. But upon closer inspection, it turned out to be the remains of a human being that had been dismembered. And for years, this case went unsolved, and the remains went unidentified. Uh, the remains were less the head, hands, and feet, any things that would help to have identified. But in 2015, Sheriff Woodruff he okayed for them to be able to draw some DNA from the remains, which they did, and they ran it in the CODIS Bank, which is the National Law Enforcement CODIS, and it would only show you if, in fact, there was a open case or that person had a DNA profile in uh, in the CODIS Bank. And it was unfortunately it didn't show anything. This young lady didn't have a criminal history or and nothing. She was never a suspect in another case, so it didn't show up. Well, in 2023, a young lady who had been adopted in New York, she wanted to find out something about her biological family. Well, she put her DNA in uh,
Right.
ancestry.com.
Ancestry. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes I get ancestry.com and 23andMe and some others that separate, but
Mm-hmm.
this was an ancestry.com. Well, is when she did, it crossed to the CODIS Bank and she got hit and found out that the body that we had was her biological sister.
Oh my gracious.
And I came on with the sheriff's office. The sheriff, after I retired, he had asked me would I like to come and work on some old unsolved cases they have, which was very gracious of him. And I am enjoying it immensely at this point. And but anyway, I was able to contact the young lady. She was down in Florida, and we talked, and she told me what she had found out about her family, and I was able to do some things and check on some people in her situation. Come to find out, she had came to Georgia with another person, and this young lady was disabled, and
But the lady that was on Ancestry.com was alive, and she was the biological sister of the one that was dead.
correct.
So, did she know her sister, or was she adopted or something? Did she ever have an idea that she had a sister?
No, she didn't.
Oh, okay.
Let me rephrase that. I think, and there comes a time at some point that I I think it's 10 years, you can explore through the state of New York your biological history.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew that she had some folks, but she didn't know really anything about
Wow.
it. So through her search for her genetic search,
Mm-hmm.
she was able to contact the family and some members of her family and so forth. And come to find out there were 8 siblings, and her mother died in '92
Wow.
in New York City, and the kids were adopted out. 4 went to homes, and 4 went to, I guess the best thing to describe would be an adoption mill.
Mm-hmm.
And the adoption mill put this girl and her sister out when they were 12 years old
Cut him out where?
in the street. And but this girl was lucky enough that a lady that runs I guess you'd call it a shelter for young teens and whatnot. She almost immediately found her and raised this young lady almost as if she were and she was
Oh.
dyslexic and legally blind, and she I believe was groomed, and this woman came into her life and said she wanted to bring her down here to Georgia and have a new life. What she didn't know this woman was a fugitive from justice in New York.
Mm.
She got
How
back
old was the woman and how old was the girl that had been in the
in their early 20s, both
both
of them.
of them in
They were within a month in birthday,
uh-huh.
and I don't think that was actually a coincidence. And they actually kind of favored. They were about the same stature and skin color and this and that.
So you think that the lady that brought her to Georgia was more like a predator?
I think so. I think
Mm-hmm.
so.
Mm-hmm.
See, Luke Thomas, everything's good, buddy. I need to know who your contact is down in Bay County. I'm working on an old case that's from back from 10 of child murder. And, oh shit, that ain't no good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, who? I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. Okay, well, cool. Hey, I holler back at you. I will, and I holler back at you. Hell, I miss talking to you. Well, I have, and you didn't answer the phone. I hear you, bro. Well, I'll tell you one thing. When this guy down here lost you, they lost the best intel man they had. I don't know what the hell it was thinking. That's fact. It's a fact. All right, bro. Well, look, I'll holler back at you. I will.
Is he down in Panama City?
No, he works here with Grant Police.
Oh.
You know Danielle works here for the school system here. I mean,
Uh-uh.
she's a works for the police department, and she's the resource officer. This girl,
Oh,
it's
okay.
her husband.
Oh,
They
okay.
live down at no, they live now out on off the Cardiff Road, but they lived down on Oak Street for years.
Is she the resource person here at Hogansville Elementary?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's sweet. I really like
Sure.
her.
She got 20 little boys and an old one. She's good. She was a investigator in Hillary County.
She's doing a great job here.
She's good. She's good.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's get back to it. Where we at?
um,
So this young lady had just started receiving a Social Security SSI check, and
because she was legally blind
dyslexic.
and
She
dyslexic
had a
learning.
learning disability,
Okay.
but she was very artistic, and her handwriting, God, it looked like calligraphy,
Really?
and but she was from all indications and the people I've talked to, she was just a very sweet person,
Mm-hmm.
very vulnerable person.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like it.
Well, it got down here, and at some point, the things weren't going well at all for her.
Well, from what I understand, they had a relationship too. They were lesbians, and this girl felt like this person that was with her loved her,
And she did.
and so she trusted this. this
And
lady that was with her that actually brought her down to
that's a
Georgia.
very fair assumption.
Mhm.
Well, through the investigation, we found that this woman, for the next, girl disappears. She calls her family on Thanksgiving in 2007 and says, "Look, I want to come home. This is not going well." And that's the last time I heard from her.
Mm.
On December the 6th, 2007, her body's found dismembered on the Stitcher Road. So
And nobody at that point knew who she was.
you know who did had no idea.
Hmm.
And it went she was identified in 23
Hmm.
and was able to go back and in all fairness, though, that they had done all they could to try to identify. They'd spent man hours and money trying to
Hmm.
find this person. They couldn't find anybody that was within earshot that would have a missing
Well,
person.
she
She was
wasn't
never reported.
right, and she wasn't from here anyway.
Well,
And then the crazy thing you told me was on that street there's homes. People live there.
it did. And that morning, as quick as folks started waking up, they saw it. And at first, they thought it was just, as I said, a deer carcass laying beside it.
Didn't one of the people on that street was going to work saw a car there at one point?
At about 4 o'clock in the
Mm-hmm.
morning, it appeared the car was sitting beside the road up there as he drove by, but he didn't think anything of it. He didn't see
Mm-hmm.
what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but fast forward, Phil was able to identify uh, the person that came down with her. She immediately got a post office box. They were in an apartment. I was able through uh, credit history and whatnot to find out where they should have been at the time this event took place.
Mm-hmm.
And we went uh, there, got consent to search and lumen all the place and found what we thought was pretty good evidence that her death probably occurred in that apartment.
Mm.
So, uh, but back to the story, the woman that came down with immediately got her post office box and started getting no social security check. And for the next 8 years, she became her,
Mm.
buying, having Section 8 housing, food stamps, cashing those social security checks for 8 years. And the only thing that
Mm.
stopped that was when Social Security Administration sent her a letter and said, "Hey, it's time to requalify." And she knew she couldn't fake being blind, she couldn't
Mm-hmm.
fake being dyslexic. And what she had done was just a few months after the death, because she had all this girl's biological and official information. She had a birth certificate, she had her New York State ID card, Social Security card. She went to the Georgia DMV, and they looked a lot alike.
Mm-hmm.
She went right into the Georgia DMV, got a driver's license with her picture on it, and all of the dead girl's biological
Everything was faked. Everything.
for the next eight
She
years.
took everything from that girl.
The tune of between $200 and $250,000 just in what we know, and uh, those cases are having to be pursued in Fulton County. Of course, they were products of the investigation that we started and what we got, and I had some really good partners on this case. Detective John Nanoff with Sandy Springs PD, which is where she was living up there, and also folks at Roswell Police Department. They've just uh, been so helpful, and they're carrying on with the parts of the investigation where they have venue,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't say enough good about those folks.
So where was you said it was in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the apartment located? In Sandy Springs?
Palmetto.
It was in Palmetto.
Yes, and that's where the post office box was that she had, and she kept it for a long time until she moved up to Sandy Springs, and then she transferred well, actually to Roswell. And there's all types of the way we found out who she really was Roswell police got a domestic violence call to an apartment complex, and they booked her in with the information they had, which was that she was our victim. And when the fingerprints came back the next day, guess what?
It wasn't her.
She was our perpetrator,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
our suspect.
Mm-hmm.
And she, we were able to, at that point, find out that she had traffic tickets and lawsuits and, you know, waged against her and all kind of things that were in the name of our deceased. And
She was just a career criminal.
she was.
Yeah, and so she had already gotten hooked up with somebody else
Oh, yeah.
and called in on a domestic violence thing
Hmm.
that caused her to be caught.
And there was, and over the next few years, there's several of those. She's a rather violent person.
Man. So going back to the place where the lady was killed, so that was an apartment. Obviously, somebody else had moved into that
Hmm.
apartment, but yet when y'all went in,
Oh,
by spraying that luminol, you can still see.
the place lit up like the bathroom, and because she was disabled, they put her in a disabled person apartment, which has a bigger bathtub, bigger shower, and so forth. And we figured that there was and something that I didn't know prior to this was that luminol will react to blood for 25 years.
Really? Even if it's painted over?
It bleed right up through it.
Really?
You can't see it, but it's there.
Uh-huh. Until you spray it and
And
put that
and
ultraviolet thing over it, right?
when we were able to take some samples and so forth, and at this point, I don't want to talk about the results of the samples, but
Mm-hmm.
we and the reason I can talk about this because this is all already been publicized,
Mm-hmm.
but we are just waiting now for the Fulton County District Attorney's Office to draw an indictment, decide how we're going to proceed, and I think we have a very good case. And
But she's currently in prison now, right?
no, she is.
Oh,
I
she's out
charged.
walking amongst everybody.
I charged her in Troup County with concealing the death
Uh-huh.
because by her assuming this girl's identity and dumping the body here, she concealed the death.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of that charge we were able to follow the chain back to where we were going and make the charges that I think will be forthcoming now
Mm-hmm.
in Fulton County. And
So,
I can't say enough about the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. They took an aggressive stance on this case, as well I thought was only right.
mm-hmm.
And they're they have a major crime cold case squad, and they develop and devote a lot of resources into the case, and they are with this one. So.
Yeah. My son was in high school. Maybe my daughter was at Callaway High at that time when it happened. And I remember when it came out in the newspaper that the kids at the school were saying that that morning when the buses were driving by, they saw that on fire. They saw it burning, didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
So that lady did pour.
She poured it herself, which was determined to be gasoline on the plastic bags. But you got to remember, that said poof and went out. The
Mm-hmm.
remains, some of it had like some scorch on them, but they were well intact. It was gruesome.
Yeah,
And
criminals just think they're so smart,
well,
don't they?
the medical examiner said that it appeared that she was dismembered with a circular saw, skill saw.
In an apartment. And you just think the neighbors would like, what is going on in there? But people keep to themselves, and they don't really say
Well,
much.
in the area it was, you don't want to say too much,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, because she could come after them. I get it.
But it's going to be a very interesting case. I'm proud of the work that we did, proud of the work that people did on it before I got there. And, they were devoted to it, and again, I want to thank Sheriff Woodruff for allowing me the opportunity to work on these old cases. And there's a few more we're going to work on.
Yes. And this one, you'll have to do a follow-up when it comes to a
It will,
conclusion.
and hopefully that'll be, the wheel of justice turns slowly.
Yes.
Um, so I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the next few months we'll start having some full appearances on it and the case will move along. Because not only do you have this crime against against the person. Our victim, her name was Nicole Austin, and but you also have every time she signed a Social Security check is a forgery.
Mm-hmm.
Every time she bought a car was title fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Every time she got an apartment or got food stamps by the month. So you can imagine the mountain of charges that she has racked up.
I don't understand why she's not in jail right now for those things, because that's a proven fact.
Well,
Is she bonded out or something? Is that what she
no, she's.
did?
It's important that we want to try these cases together because they support each other.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's the whole crux of the situation is we want to be able to get justice
Mm-hmm.
completely for it.
I'd be worried about fleeing. Do y'all know where she is? Keep an eye on her.
Well, let's just say that I don't think she'll get
Okay.
away.
Yeah. If I ask two in-depth questions that I don't need to ask because it might hurt the case, you just tell me I can't say. And it'll be fine.
That part of this investigation for me is something. My involvement in it is pretty much other than the court and leading up to what we found and those parts, we're pretty much out of the case. But uh, the folks up there, they've done so much work and it's so helpful. I just can't say enough for them.
Yeah, y'all had to work hand in hand though. If you didn't, this wouldn't have come to this point.
And like I said, with the folks up there, just been they they heard the story and they became dedicated to it.
Mm-hmm.
In Roswell, there was two people in particular. Jennifer Bennett, she's a cold case detective up there,
We need to have her down and
and
be a guest.
Zach Kowalski, he was there. He's a detective, but he's also very sharp. He's an evidence technician, and I like to think Cheryl McCollum with the Hateville Police Department. We were initially looking at the apartment. She went with us and sprayed some luminol for us to make sure. And then, of course, later on, they got another search warrant, and the folks in Fulton County went back and to reestablish what we had done and so forth. It was just, uh, and Cheryl she runs a nonprofit called Cold Case Investigative Research Institute, and she does some very, very good work. And
What's her podcast? I know she does a podcast. What's it called?
Zone 7.
Yes, and it's highly recommended.
And
She's very good.
she does, and she's big in the thing called CrimeCon,
Mm-hmm.
and they it has it's folks that are interested in cold cases and crime, true crime, and they're from all over the country. And Cheryl is the only person in the state of Georgia that is in the National Law Enforcement Hall of Fame out of Philadelphia.
Wow, wow.
It's, you know,
The Crime Con, is it in Atlanta?
it's all over. It's a large conglomerate, and they have uh, the last one in Georgia was in Savannah a couple of years ago.
Did you go?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I never been to one.
we gotta go.
Never been to one. But
Can I go if I'm not?
it's open to the public.
Oh, it
Oh
is.
yeah, and there'll be vendors there and people like me that write books and folks they give speeches like that have solved old cases and involved in them, and it's really interesting for
Oh,
them.
we're gonna go. I'm gonna get Randy and you grab your wife and we'll just go and have a good time. I'll be in heaven.
I'm if everything goes well, we're gonna have some more to talk about. I'm writing another book now,
Yes.
and it's on the murder of Paul McKean Jr. And this young man was found laying beside the road, gravely injured. Had been thrown out of a vehicle trying to make it look like this was a traffic deal.
In Troup County.
No, actually, it was in Meriwether.
Mm-hmm.
Is where his body was, where he was found.
Mm-hmm.
But the case actually, the murder happened. Uh, the act that resulted in his death happened in Harris County.
Good grief.
And
I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut it right now.
mhm.
I'll cut it. one is still gonna stop.